and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. So hello there, beloved Ascension Pioneers and volunteer souls, those of you who are here for this particular reason. Welcome to this video with me today, which is a rather spontaneous flow. It was received during the recent gateway of the Taurus full moon actually, and it overflooded me with so much information, clarity, and wisdom of the synthesis of our journey. For many of you who might be walking this path, this won't resonate with all of you, particularly probably just with some of you. And I will share later why. And those of you who feel drawn to watching this is a timeless video, wherever you're watching it, it means it's stirring something deep within you, or it's something you need to receive for the further integration of your journey. And probably if you are a volunteer soul, it will make lots of sense to you at this time, and you will have a greater understanding. So may my channeling and sharing assist you as always on this journey. That's always my intention. But I would like to share that, you know, the support of this work is very much appreciated because it helps to sustain me in this physical realm. And recently I didn't have as much support as I was, you know, as I would actually need in the physical. So it's getting quite challenging for me to continue. But that doesn't, you know, in any way mean that my videos won't be there as long as they're needed, as long as I'm guided to do them, and as long as those of you who are watching feel supported by them. So I do invite you though to participate in an equalite manner of sharing, because a lot of times I do share works of others, like, you know, different books, whatever I share, and people always ask me, oh, what's this book? I need to get it, I need to buy it. And a lot of these people, you know, they have no problem of getting a book or an oracle, things like that, but they've never actually ever supported my work in any way possible. So it's a little bit of the, you know, it's not really cherishing and putting the support and value to this type of information, because it does require constant work and devotion. In my life, that's all I live for those of you who know and been with me for years. And you know, I always say that whatever we support grows, and whatever we take for granted wanes, you know, in its light. So because we are one group beings, and nothing is coming about at a greater sense with just one person, or through just one person, or the effort of one person. Even the work I'm doing, it's shared within my group of light. We're one family. So when I say they, or I receive from them, or from, you know, the web of this information, it's not something separate from me. It's not channeled outside of me. It's coming through my group consciousness and unity, reflection, and through different gateways. And when I'm ready to receive something, when the collective is ready, that's when I will be receiving it. And then I also will feel a pull of what's important to share. So enough about that. I want to say that this is probably one of the most important videos of the year. It makes sense because we're approaching the Samhain, right? Period. We have 31st of October, which is the ending of the cycle. And, you know, sorry, in Celtic tradition, they began actually a new year at that time. So there was a darkening of coming into the whole. And this does make sense now with the 40 days of darkness, right? With our Venus going retrograde and moving through the celestial alignment. And I've recently channeled this drawing. It was just before the full moon in Taurus, was the assimilation and gathering of Earth, you know, overlighted with the light of the moon, and overlighted with the presence of Venus as that higher celestial body. And in relation to their co-creation, the new cosmic wave coming through. So you can see that on my Instagram, and I will be sharing more of these channel drawings. I already have a compilation of cosmic drawings for the book I'm working on, The Journey of Volunteer Souls, The Mission of Volunteer Souls. But these are more like, you know, channeled random, like channelings. I don't know what I'm going to draw. I just drop down in the paper and it's just channeled from me. So why is this video so important? Because if you've been noticing lately, if you are a part of the cycle that's happening now, you're feeling that your body is going a tremendous change. My body hasn't been the same, the way I felt things in comparison to before. it was so much different, and I didn't know for a while why this is so. I didn't find all the answers. As you know, we don't find them through logical thinking and wanting to understand something. But when we align with something energetically, and when the time is right, I always share this, that it's just kind of like a phenomenon I call the water balloon popping open. And this is like when all pours through and you get the information you're meant to receive, because it all aligns at that moment. So probably the channeling I did with the drawing, because I don't draw just, I don't just channel words. I also do channel drawings and, whatever poetry, whatever comes through in each moment, it's given in a different way. So without judgment, it comes through in a specific way. If this video gets in any way too long, maybe I'm going to divide it into 2 parts. I don't know yet. I just know I'm meant to share it because it is so important at this time. It's really not going to have so many views as always. If you notice, my views are continuously dropping, and it's not because the dark agendas and all of that. Yeah, that's partially that as well. But mostly what they're showing me, again, is that the path is getting narrower, and there's less and less people who are actually ready for this part of the journey. This is quite an intense, difficult part to participate in, and you're going to see with the writing coming through why this is so. And you have to know a little bit of the galactic history to have an understanding. So I'll share a little bit about this too, maybe in the beginning part, but I want to give you an overview of why this is so important and how I've experienced it myself before I go deeper into the topic and the nature of this experience that's happening now. Is that when I was tuning into this, inner cycle, it happened actually right when I came home from my holiday. It was a working holiday, by the way, but it was a retreat in the Carnic Alps. And I came home, it felt like my energy closed in and it all dropped. And I felt one challenging energy after the other, and the waves of incoming energy was just pouring through, and I felt so tired. I was like, what does it ever end? It's too much. At a certain periods, I felt like giving up and giving in. And I remember we even did like this channel coffee reading, and in it was literally someone who kind of fell to the ground just like before the finish line. When you kind of run those marathons, that's the vision I saw. And it was like a being just like, dropped just before, very close to the finish line. And there was many messages coming through. One message was like, why run a marathon anyway? It's a goal, right? It's a fixed goal and finish line we have in our mind. But this surrendering, this death, it's like, just close to the finish line, it's not seen as giving up, because I've shared with you that this Venus retrograde, it's crucial gift to us at this time. Those of you who are ready, who are receiving through ascending gateways, the opportunities for our inner growth. And volunteer souls, we always manifest or co-create things in an inward way, which means we align with the spiritual essence of things first through our core, our open, illumined heart essence. Then we move on gradually to opening up to opportunities coming in from the outside world, or the reality reflecting that back to us. So this is how we're creating. So for us, it's difficult sometimes, and it's challenging because the world at large does not operate within this as a collective. So we're always breaking through points, and for you to have a breakthrough, even with birth, it feels a little like challenging with the first breakthrough when the child enters through the gate, through the canal, moving from the womb to the open space. And this is the thrusting moment that feels the most challenging. And this is what we feel because the collective is not aligned with what we're establishing and creating these new templates. And the templates, when I say it means, it's not something external. The word template, right, we often associate it in this way, but it's an internal dynamics that we create. We create an inner template that actually unlocks the gateways of reality becoming new, and all we need is to plant that seed within ourselves. So all the work we do is actually in our own bodies. Our bodies are becoming our homes. Our bodies need to become the first template, the first house of spirit, as I've shared before. So when I enter this dark period, this inner, right, the canal, right, you go in, it was all connected with the Venus. The 40 days, 40 nights was oftentimes associated with spiritual masters who have undergone these initiations as they withdrew in their caves. But even the symbol of the cave, right, going into the cave was misunderstood because it often was given to us as the masculine, as the master in training, right? The women were never there, or, in the picture that way. They went into the retreat mode and to get new revelations or insights during those times. But the cave represents the feminine, the womb, the unknown. So the masculine entering, right, as the light that already is within a certain framework, but it wants to expand itself, so it has to enter the cave. So this means us, we have to have that union within, that which is already known, established, our light, but it travels into the dark, it moves into the mystery and the mysticism of the unknown. So this relates to the masculine and feminine principle working as one in unity, in unison. What that means is that, you know, you often have states when you feel adjusted, you're doing well. And most of the people, the majority of the people, the humankind still lives at that state when they're not moving much in their energy. That's why for many people who are living as moving only upwards, they're always feeling good most of the times. But beings who are constantly adjusting to these, you know, creating these new templates, so we move in and out of the experience, and you go into the dark, you pull it back into the light, and again, it won't always feel good. And people will tell you, oh, it's your karma, it's this and that. No, because they don't understand this journey, and no one can tell you that. So basically, in my own experience, I've stopped watching any kind of videos related to ascension, reading, spiritual advice, whatever, because it all functions at the level where it's appropriate for that level to be at. So it does not resonate with me, because so rarely I find the pearls of wisdom that I receive from my own group consciousness, because it's so deep. So what I'm going to share today goes so deep that you have to have, like I said, a little of the predecessing knowledge and understanding of this human experience from the galactic perspective. So perhaps it's going to be 2 videos, because it's a lot to handle at this time. I want to get the full picture, the full scope out, but I would also like to, for you to go deeper into it, you know, to move beyond, and also to connect with your own inner wisdom, because these are times for us to not seek these answers or understanding from the outside, like these outwardly sources, but to really say, you know what? Everything is vibrational. So for me to tune into the vibrational essence of it, I need to create a vibrational space for that. All we have to do is create a sacred space, tune in with the heart, tune in with the feeling, and just feel what it is to be new. Because sometimes just thinking new is enough, okay? It gets us to this new point of alignment. Oftentimes we think we need to do this detox and that kind of work and adjust energies. People who are specifically volunteer souls, we don't need to adjust or shift our energies. Our energies are already high. They're already advanced. But the thing is, we come here to expand the bodies. We didn't come here. That's what Spirit is showing me always. Like the volunteer soul part of the experience is not better, higher, more evolved in that sense. It's just different, because the volunteer souls are aspects that have undergone the spiritual transformation at the light level. But that light now wants to move into life itself, recreate it a new way, so that this redesign or reinvention of life occurs, which you will see when I'm going to read you the automatic writing received from the Spirit. So that means that the illumination already exists, but that illumination now needs to re-enter the world of experience, of matter, in a particular way and form. So what we're doing is, we're not here to evolve ourselves or evolve our souls. Of course we're evolving, because all life always evolves, but it's in a different way that the majority of the souls who are still evolving, the soul still needs to evolve to become illumined, okay? So they're going through different body experiences. But what we're doing, we're coming from the illumined perspective that already is. We're jumping in these bodies, and we're basically transcending the nature of how life is in this point, or how can it be, and creating this new optimum frequency, this new adjustment, and to these new opportunities, so they can be created. So these are like seedlings for the new. So just thinking new for us is enough. We don't always have to meditate hours and hours. It's just, we need to move a lot of energy, because moving energy for us means to live in this expanded way. That's why I did the whole October month review with moving energy, because when you do it on the outside, you're creating a vibrational space within, and then the energy is being moved. You know, like I went to the Alps, I came back, it was so much energy movement that everything in my body started to adjust to the new. I didn't yet know what it was. It felt very dark. It was very going within, and it was unknown. And we always fear this unknown, because everything starts to die. But ours already this light, right? I already had this understanding. This is how most people function. They see it like black and white. You're either illumined, enlightened, or not. It's not like that. There's many stages we have to go through, and each of those stages has an application of death, and then there's a reinvention through that rebirth that occurs. And now this Venus retrograde is so important, like it ever was before, because it's a part of this synthesis and integration journey for many of you who are now finding yourselves to be at this point, at this level, and or where you will be finding yourselves to be. So maybe this serves you in times to come, and you're going to go back to it, or, you know, any way, form, how you will be guided. But when I said this, that we're not here to evolve ourselves, to become better or more refined so that our soul can be illumined. We're bringing an aspect of illumination that already is, but to life and matter in this density so it can create a new optimum. So there's this refinement and optimization of frequency that's available first within ourselves. This is how we refine our bodies. Our bodies become our template, our home. This is where we do the work. We don't need to do it like I go here to this tree, I need to touch this to get this done. These are aspects maybe that trigger us, but the work is done in the body. So people who are not yet doing the embodiment process, they're not gonna feel this to the extent that those of you who have been doing the embodiment process for so long now, you're gonna start to feel these changes, and you're probably gonna say, wow, is it getting worse now? No, because the understanding is still not born that it's not getting worse, but it's not like you're going back, but there are aspects that each time we're like more illumined. So bringing more of that illumination into the body. Read the Sanat Kumara book I've shared with you last year, the journey of the Sanat Kumara and all of these integration processes he had to go through after the ascension that he already went through. Okay, so what they were showing me is like ascension is not how most people understand it. They understand it like going up, up, up and ascending and moving through, I don't know, some sort of transcendence. This is not even half of journey yet. You're going to see clearly when I'm going to share further on about this path and this journey, what's the key to this process at this time. So this means that we're coming from the ascended perspective that already is. And I've shared this in the embodied meditation for volunteer souls. Watch that if you want more expansion or understanding and you're still like, what is she talking about here? So this means that this notion creates a space that life can start to breathe a new way. It can start to reinvent itself. But we're going to go always through periods of darkness. And this is the guidance, the most important guidance I always receive, because I sometimes, even my human nature, right, will ask, but what's this all about? Why is my path so different? Why don't I resonate with these spiritual teachings or those teachings? And those teachings are for the level that's available there. But for me, it never was like, it was so much missing, you know, even when people say, oh, you have to be empowered and create this and that, and, you know, so you can create your reality. How? From which perspective? What dimensional attunement? What consciousness are you creating your reality from? That's still missing. The integration point of high understanding is still missing. Okay, you're self-empowered, yes, but through what? Through power? You know, it's like this feminine principle that's now coming through is the empowerment through complete surrender. So that's the person falling right just before the finish line. That's required. So they were showing me this fall is not like, oh, bad, you gave up, but it's the fall that is required for the complete dissolution of this will aspect, because a lot of the material that's presented about the way we create and how we attract and manifest is still through will, the aspect of will, and there is nothing wrong with that. But the aspect of will is an aspect of the soul that is still learning about itself, and it's still very much individualized. We're all always going to be individualized aspects of souls, but in an illumined form as a soul, you realize yourself to be as a part of something much greater than just yourself. You become a field, right? So here in this book, I've shared with you the Joshua channelings, which is probably the material you need to read if you have if you want to have more understanding what I'm sharing here, because it's a predecessor to what I'm sharing here, and I can't do a whole history review, so I really encourage you to get this book. I think it's even channelings available freely online, some of it. Okay, it's from Pamela Cribb. The author is here down there. Okay, so anyway, what I want to say here is that this process, right, what they're showing me is like most people are learning, right? They're learning about this, so they're creating through will. But what we're going through and what the volunteer soul perspective is in this part of creation and understanding is being the light in the dark. And they're always telling me it's easy to be the light within the light. So these people usually who are in that part of the journey, they're always going to have similar groups, people they resonate with. It's all going to be on the same wavelength. For volunteer souls, we come to very dark, dense environments because we want to expand life. We want to embrace life with love, whatever it is. You know, I live in harsh conditions as well. People always see my pictures. Oh, beautiful mountains, Alps. Yeah, the pictures when I go into nature, it's perfect. Yeah, not always, right? I encounter many, many energies, the way I live, where I live. So much density, I don't even want to explain it. You know, the last time I went to this mountain shelter to sleep in there, first I thought I'm going to be alone. I watched a beautiful sunset there. But then two people came, right? Two guys. And they had to spend the night there as well, right? It's a tiny shelter. I've spoken a little bit about, you know, these things with them. Not like when I speak about with you, because they're very, very, very dense energies on the planet. It just starts, it's like just, seeing a little bit here and there what they can open themselves up to. They don't want to hear anything, So I was just seeing where the majority of these people are, who are very much living this density, and they don't even know they're slaves. And I said, sometimes, the worst kind of slavery is when you don't even know you're slave to the system. And then I asked them, well, what do you think the system is? And they said, well, us. I said, really? You think it's us? It's like collective will choice? I said, yeah, it's us. They don't even know that there is something that exists that artificially implants this idea of the system. It's not choices of the people, because the choices of the people en masse right now, they would not reflect the system that's being, kind of like enforced upon us in a way. But as well, it is still reflecting the aspect that resists. So first thing I want to share is that people don't always want to hear these things. They're still in ignorance. And one guy said, why would I worry about these things that are happening in the world? I'd rather just live my life. Why would I just live and worry? I don't have any power to do anything anyway. And I'm like, okay. So I just listened. I gave a few of my very, very on the surface kind of level ideas, and they got very defensive, even though I shared hardly anything, They got so defensive, like, why are they trying so hard to resist this, the change, knowing things, being awake? Is because there's still such fear of the responsibility that you have for this being co-created, because again, it's not like something does this to you or someone. It's all a collective representation of the passive mode and this inner kind of like passive ignorance that still exists within humanity. Probably not with the people you associate with, but when you go about and meet maybe these denser people who are living at a very minimum level of bandwidth, of frequency, attunement, and reality expansion, that's where they are. They still don't want to hear anything. They're still very ignorant, and they will clearly say it. They will say it as it is, because they don't literally want to take responsibility for anything. For them, when you see them, life is about simple pleasures, quick enjoyment, food. Basically, these two guys, all they wanted to do is come to the mountains to eat. I was laughing like, okay. But it's how it is, and when we come here to these denser environments and experiences, we do that to embrace all of this and emanate so much love. Because when we ourselves, let's say the more illumined aspects of creation, who are aware of life, all the aspects, all the layers, all the soul experiences, we have a much greater power as to how much we can imbue this reality with love. So us resisting this and these people and how they think, and it's like trying to change them, that doesn't work. You already know that. If you've ever tried to change anything or anyone or the system even, you probably got a slap on your face, right? So for us to be here in this way, that's what the volunteering part of Creation Now is here for, is to just be the light. Not with the light, like for me, to be the light within the light is to stay there, be with my group, to work there within the field of light and my equals, right? My equal partners in crime. But here I am, living in harsh conditions, dense environments, people who are completely cut off of any connection. All they care about is procreation, food, self-sustenance in a way, survival. And harsh judgments of those who are also like us, who are a little different. I still feel a lot of judgment coming the way I am, the way I move. Sometimes people react so weird to my nature that I just rather go my way, don't even talk to, energies like this, because I can't literally, function. Like even with these two people, it was so hard to talk to them. I couldn't even express myself, and they kept making fun of me in a way, and I didn't even say much, and I felt how they're like mocking me. I felt like, wow, this is how these energies act to beings of the light, to the light. It's like they're even mocking the light, and it felt like, okay, I felt like in school when they mocked me, I didn't experience it in a bad way. I just observed it, and I witnessed it, and I was like, okay, that's what it is. That's what's happening, when you're just acknowledging energies and where they are and how they are, and maybe even understanding why it is this way. So for us, why are we experiencing things in this way? And sometimes we go against it. We want to clash, this. We want to go like, oh, I want to move away from this experience and not be with these people, not be in these circumstances. But it's not like they were pushed, somehow and forced upon us. But as a soul agreement, we had this agreement to come here to experience all of it and bring love, the component of love, back to this. Because we wanted to bring love to every element, not just there where it's easy to be with like-minded ones, to be the light within the light. The guidance that my team gave me was to be the light in the dark. And it will be the harshest journey, it will be the most challenging journey, but the most rewarding one as well. And for me, I will still feel a lot of resistance to these circumstances in my body, because it's the body that sometimes, you know, creates this. And the body is basically responding. It's a complex that, as you know, it cooperates with, it's the body, mind, and the heart. They are a complex. They work together. So if the mind will be non-aligned and will try to resist this, because the resistance first is here, and then we'll create a lot of fear, and then the body will start to resist as a follow-up as well, because they're connected, they're related. So the heart, as you know, is the missing link that was so much ignored in a way, the way we are supposed to create. So the heart, which is the integrating stable force, which connects all the dots, all the realms, it's simply a force of love. It was not used the way it was supposed to be used. So we had a lot of negative emotions and very much emotional reactivity, instead of this deeper feeling and sensing reality in an intuitive way, deep and insight and clarity. So instead of being heart-centered, we were like emotional and things like that, because the body-mind complex, you know, the heart in the middle, the center, the triad was not imbalanced. It wasn't yet properly put in motion. The framework wasn't set. So we, coming here in these bodies, we were about to set this framework for the new human, the way it functions, the way we function in a way that's radically, innovatively creative, no matter what kind of circumstance, whatever it exists outside of us, we're still going to have that implanted within us. This consciousness is stable, is grounded, is embodied, because people can talk on and on about ascension and whatever, but if that is not embodied, and if you don't have this platform as this framework that I talk about, this new template, if it's not deeply wired within the system, so that all of your body equally cooperates, equally applies to the wisdom you might have as a light being, and it's really integrated, then it won't be a safe bet, right? It won't really be firmly applied. So this is why we came here, and it was a tough job. So I'm going to explain as well why it was difficult, and why now, with so much of this higher mind overseeing this process, it got very demanding of us and of our bodies. I felt this as well. Many times I had to say to the group, I said, come on, I can't, literally in this physical body, I can't hold as much energy. You know, it had to really be, you know, each time the body had to be readied and open to a certain level, certain extent, so that this higher light could then come and they could join, because we could not do that in this imbalanced way. It would simply overwhelm us, overrun by this spiritual fire. So for us to be in this heart-centered reality, we need to first let go of these notions and concepts of creating through will. And this is what, like I said, this Venus retrograde is now bringing, the sense of surrender and to allow to receive. Because when you receive, it's not like, oh, I'm receiving it from the outside, I'm just passively waiting. No, you're receiving that which you're already setting within your template as an inner spiritual basis. It's not like you're receiving it from the outside, even if it comes from a person or whatever. It's still all you. It is all you being reflected through that source. And that source inner vortex where you create as a source being. This is where the creation takes place first. So this ego will driven aspect of us thought that we have to create outside of us. So that's why we're always so driven by will and goals, right? Running a marathon. And then you collapse right just in front of the finish line, because you realize that, wait a minute, what's the finish line? It doesn't exist. It's all like ebb and flow of constant creation, how life starts sparkle of the new seedling, a new idea, then it has to create that fully illuminated and then bring that illumination to all the seeds, not just one seed. So beings who are illumined beings here on the planet, we come here because we want to, you know, be the seed that will spread out to all the other seeds, because of the understanding of wholeness, unity consciousness. So the first thing I wish to share here is why this template will no longer work for the ascending ones, the will-driven aspect of creating, manifesting. So you might watch readings and videos of people who are still teaching this, and there's nothing wrong with that, because that's where they are. But you will have to eventually step a little further from that, a little away from it, create this space, and see whether that's still something where you as a being are resonating with. Are you there? Is your template there? And for me, what I feel is like, someone will speak in a very empowered way and they're really firmly believing that, and it's going to sound really good on paper, but my body will say, ooh, no, that's not for me. So listen to the body. I always tell you this. The new body template for a lot of you probably is now firmly set in. You just have to pay attention to it. You have to see it through, because it will tell you, will give you the impulses that you need to understand what's happening for you, not what someone else is teaching or giving you. Or, you know, when someone maybe asks me a question, I'm so humble to it, because first of all, I understand I'm no one's problem or life solver. I don't see myself, my ego is not at that level when I think I know more than someone else. All I can do is inspire someone to come to their own wisdom, their own conclusion, and I do that in expanding, helping to hold the space for them to step into a new expanded way of perceiving reality and expanding their consciousness through that. But that's basically all. So when you give answers directly, you're actually taking away the experience of someone to getting there themselves. And this is still the operation of the old way. It's a lot of healers think that they're actually doing good, but they're not doing good. Read this book, because it's all here. It tells you all the pitfalls. I didn't read the whole book. I read it half because I was away this month so much. But it's the pitfalls of the mind, the healer, the complex, and all these ideas we have about healing. So basically, here is a very good description that all true healing is creating this vibrational space so that the solutions, you know, that this awareness becomes possible. So you create this within yourself, then you share it with another. So now a little more about creating through the heart. So the heart consciousness is the unity consciousness. So the heart within the body-mind complex is the mediator, right? That's why the heart will kind of like the body wants something, the mind wants something. Until there's a separation, it means that the triad hasn't been fully integrated, and I call this the ascension column, the pillar of white light, which will eventually stabilize this triad, this complex. This means that in all you do and all you perceive and your choices you're making as the sovereign being, you're going to be stabilized. You won't be like torn into different directions. Or, you know, a lot of times we do something and then we look back. What happens is we start to already doubt our choices, decisions, and we're starting to analyze them. And we're saying, oh yeah, but I need to, so for the next time I maybe won't make the same mistake. What mistake? You see, we're seeing reality as mistakes. It's always going to be played out within division and duality consciousness. So recently I watched someone talking about this self-empowerment, how being, you know, like waiting for things to just happen or fall out of the sky, how that's so not empowered. You know, that's still black and white. Because it's not, like it says here, right? They say when you're really a healer, you're always going to have the intuitive approach, which means feeling in the moment, this now moment you tune into through the Christ consciousness, which is a neutral mediator. It's a mediating force. It's an integrative force. It's a cohesive force, which unifies all for it to come into unity, balance, oneness. Unified polarity. This is true divine union, okay? So when we're coming from the learned perspective, the knowledge, right? That knowledge will try to control. Knowledge always tries to control before it becomes illumined wisdom. It's a fact. It's how it is. So you might have knowledge about, you know, I'm a motivator speaking to people about how to create in the real way. Yeah, but what is the real way? Maybe something where you are at, your soul is currently at, this framework, and then you're teaching it to others and it's still not going to be illumined. So now we're having a flooding of information with now so many people becoming gradually empowered and gradually growing in their soul awareness. But it's not illumined, and people becoming the teachers before they're illumined and cohesive and true healer, like it says here within, which is an inner work of art. So working on yourself. And each time you're going to try to teach something prematurely, it's going to come back to you in a way. Because it does create a certain karmic effect that we're not meant to teach in that way. It's like share within your framework, but say, this is my experience right now, not necessarily the ultimate. And a lot of people don't do that. And these are the pitfalls of this new age. So much information, but what is this information actually about? What's the level of density, of refinement of the soul, where it's coming from? So this is now why there's this narrowing down happening, okay? So it's just how it is. So they were showing me that this feminine principle of life, this receiving, it does also require sometimes patience and waiting if that's required, which means the heart will know. It's not always, okay, now I'm self-empowered. Now it's go, 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 go me. I'm the creator. I need to change things. And Whenever you're changing reality from the outside, even if you say, because I have to, because I'm a self-empowered being, you're still probably going against yourself if you're not creating from the heart, as it will guide you in each moment, right? When it's time for stillness, when it's time to act, only the heart, as that mediating force, will know that. But you have to build a certain light quotient so you can understand that. Okay, which means that in this, how this is described, right, it's like everything that exists is you, right, is within you. So when you create a reality within your dream, something you're wanting to envision, to create, you always think of the reality being changed from the outside, right? You say, I want to move, right? It doesn't work that way. Through the heart, creation is different, because you're no longer applying yourself through the will aspect. The will aspect is still there, but you'll only use it for, when there's like the last level of density, right? First, all creation takes place before. The last level is the physical density. If you ever are guided, this is my most illumined wisdom that I've compiled over this summer, is the mastery of illumined creation, embodying Elohim consciousness. This is the last 13th octave synthesis course on my page in the mastery courses, because it teaches you this whole process of what is the way of creating illumined way, like law of attraction, this way, that way, mental, heart. Yeah, this is the unification of all. What this means is, when people will say you're self-empowered, do it yourself, you're the only one, you're your own creator. Well, you know what? The heart center, the heart is the unity consciousness aspect, which is the synthesizing force. This, what we talk about, the fifth dimension, is the realm of experience where we first start to really tune into unity. So for me, that unity means, okay, even though I'm an individual, right? I shared with you in the beginning of the channeling, right? Even though I say they, I receive from them, we're one, we're a group. I can't receive anything that's not already aligned with my consciousness. That's the fact. And my human self will just kind of like absorb it and integrate it in a way. Okay, so this means that it's the same way here. Okay, unity means I'm one with the team, we're one. So if I'm creating something, let's say it's a more tangible thing, I first have to align within. I have to become aligned with my core. The core is where the heart essence speaks through and emanates from, this inner heart womb. Okay, so when that voice will gradually align and do the inner work we have to do, which is the inner alchemy, this is the only way we create in an illumined way. When all that aligns, physical manifestation takes place, and that is the last degree, the last extent you have to reach for, right? And it will also have to be effortless. This is the true way. We've been learning, and we are so embedded with this old way of reaching for things outside of us, and I need to grab this, otherwise it's going to be away from me and elusive. That's fear, because it says I need to get it, because otherwise it never will be mine. The soul is like, the heart says, the heart that speaks the language of the soul says, this is already mine. How can it not be if it's all a reflection of me? But there's a divine timing in terms of when this realization, when this adjustment of all these aspects that need to align with that would occur, and we don't know. It's not what the mind can figure out. That's why this approach of just empowerment does not work. This true empowerment is the empowerment through love. Love is the glue, the synthesizing force, which means me as an individual, even though I am, right, on the planet, I'm an embodied being. I'm in the body. I'm an individual being, even as a soul. I'm an individualized component of a greater group collective. So if I create as an individual alone, I'm using the will aspect only. When I tune into the heart-centered unity consciousness, the sacred space, what I'm actually doing is I'm inviting a greater reality, a greater aspect of me, a greater group. So I don't say, okay, guys, I'm going to do it all alone. I'm here all alone. I'm fighting through this and all these challenges. It's a lot of resistance comes through that. And that's why I said now this, for a lot of you, this final death of this resistance of control is happening. In the second part, I'm going to read you the channel material that addresses this so beautifully. And when I was writing it, I was crying because I knew it was so true and so beautiful. So when you find yourself really shifting these templates, and this is now, for those of you walking through this door as first ones, it's going to be the most challenging, because the first ones always have the most difficult job. But then again, it gets easier, right? It gets more loosened up. So yeah, it means you have the power, and you have a little stubbornness too. Sometimes when I'm like, and I feel, I'm just gonna surrender, aspect has to surrender. But then again, there's this pull forward. And that pull forward is that spiritual courage that tells you, no, we're not over yet. The game ain't over yet. Ooh, and then you feel that passion of the soul, and it drives you forward again. It's not through will. It's just that spiritual fire which continuously moves you forward. So people who are talking about this manifestation only through the aspect we call self-empowerment is not the entirety of all. It's not yet illumined. But true empowerment is that feminine principle, masculine principle of creation working together as one, and in unison they create this, what we're going to read together in the channel material, of this illumined child that now wants to move forward. It wants to become independent. It wants to be an independent, it wants to be an independent creation, because there's a whole history behind it we're going to talk about in the second part. And in this process, there's this fusion, there's this great love. And when I recently channeled this, right, you're going to see at the end, I felt like, wow, there's no more like higher self and me and the body. And this was all planted. It was all it's all integrated. Because what they've showed me is those of us who are meant to awaken this way to this higher consciousness, it felt like this light being self came, right? It merged with it planted seeds in the physical human body. It merged with it fully, beautifully. And then it felt like it left. But it didn't leave. That's the experience of it. It perceived through separation. It blended so beautifully with it, but an aspect that's no longer needed, that did its job, left. But because all is holographic, right, it left its essence. The essence is planted. And this is now the driving wheel of our ascended experience, is this fusion of this beautiful inner child that before it felt like it wasn't fully allowed to live its magic, right? For me, how when I contemplated on this often manifested itself like my inner child really wanted to do something, but then this higher mind, this ET of mine, right, said, no, we're doing this instead, and we do this work, and it was so structured that a lot of times this innocent, beautiful play within me, that I was always this magical child, even like as a kid. But then when I was awakened, this part had, okay, we have a job to do, right? So there was a period of many years in my life that there was a very intense, it felt almost like pressure to establish this so the platform could be built. And now this part felt like it's leaving. I was like, oh no, why is it leaving? Oh, I felt like something within is an issue of abandonment. And we're going to talk about that in the second part, how this relates to the cosmic birthing pains of the soul abandonment when we first leave our home as the unity field, right? But I want to go back to that, creating from the unity. The unity consciousness is not like you are manifesting something and for you to prove to the universe that you are all worthy of creating this and you're all capable of creating this. You need to do this and this and that and do those goals and do it all as yourself and alone because you're an empowered being. That's still ego driven. So this aspect now, this control wants to die. This is the biggest gift for me of this Venus retrograde, because for me, I also had an aspect, not all of me, as you know, but there was an aspect that was like controlling. It was no, we're doing this instead. This needs to be done. That needs to be done. And of course it served its purpose, as all always does. It planted these seeds that now I can have this liberation and freedom, that all this wisdom is now planted within me. It's not like, okay, it's left. Ooh, now I'm clueless again. It's not how it happens at all. The same knowledge, the same wisdom, all of this is within me. But the overriding experience, that which is driving the experience of the physical embodiment process of what ascension is, it has to be in the physical. That's the second ascension. The first ascension is the transcendental, right? So that you can merge with this, remember your home, remember your state. But then, like in the Sanat Kumara book, you return and then you uplift the body. You want to create this in the body. You don't want to just ascend in order to transcend, because you have love for the experience. That's what life is. Life is intrinsic. It already in itself is its purpose. It's not like it has a goal to achieve so that it can prove, okay, I'm proving that I'm life. That's what we're doing. We're proving that we're worthy. The ego is always driving. It's like the chariot, right? Card in tarot. It's always driving forward. But now what's driving forward? Once this illumination process has been achieved, it's the inner child. It's the alchemy of the magical inner child. So we're going to do that in the reading more carefully, more thoughtfully. But I want to say that this is shifting. And this is why, because this template is shifting, there's a lot of turmoil, perhaps, experience within ourselves, because we were used to one template, now we're shifting into the other, and this affects the whole body. So we might have symptoms, we might be very emotional. For me, I'm not really such a weeper, but I was kind of like teary for this past few weeks. It's like morning cry routine, and then and then I was like, ooh, jumpy again. It was very funny, but I had to observe this process with love, because it felt like some aspect is abandoning me. It felt like it's moving up and it's no longer present within me. And for a while I felt like I'm not guided, I'm not receiving this and that. And this feeling of disinitiation when we go through is because we're being written over, and at that time everything will withdraw, everything will like move away, because we have to be clearly present only with that. This is what we're doing. It's that point of no return. So this is when we're creating this, and it's through the dark we actually master the light, so that the light can be independent in any condition. Can you imagine that? Imagine yourself, how beautiful you feel in a beautiful surrounding, and then imagine how you feel in an environment which feels dense for you, like, I don't know, some factory or some abandoned, here in the Alps we have a lot of war or leftovers, because this part is where the barrier goes to, right? The borderline between different countries, and it was a lot of World War I and II were happening here in the Alps, and it's still a lot of these shelters and, like old, what are they called? I don't know now, in tunnels and all of it. So much of that energy, and it feels different, right? To be pure nature and then come to one of these, what they are, I don't know, but they're artificial structures. And you can feel these energies, and there's a very different energy. But imagine light being so bright that in any circumstance and condition, it doesn't lose itself. Because light in the dark, it already happened in the past for many beings, because they weren't fully integrated in that illumination. They kind of lost themselves, and that's where a lot of beings who were very, they had a lot of knowledge. That's what the dark ones now, or the controllers, or the elite represent. They were, they're called Illuminati for a reason. They had a lot of knowledge, but in that knowledge, they somehow got lost. They didn't know how to be, light in these circumstances. So they kind of went so much overboard with it, and now this is what's happening. And in a way, when you look at the skies, and they're doing it now, it's beautiful sunny now. It's all cloudy because of the chemtrails. Because as they're always doing it at the intense gateways, like the full moons and different energy gateways, when energy is streaming through the solar flares or the cosmic ray activity. So they're also controlling, right? They're also representing the aspect of, they're control freaks, right? They want to control the whole earth experience. They want to control humans. So that control is a part of that button, which is, I'm creating what I'm creating, and it's me and only me, and I only know, and you don't experience yourself as a part of the whole. And that process, if we want to heal it, we have to first do it within ourselves, which means surrendering your control, where you're controlling yourself, where you think of yourself only as an individual. You are an individual, but you're not only an individual, and that's the difference. So when you want to work in cooperation and creating your beautiful reality in an illumined way, you will say, I want to now do this and flow. This time I'm doing it through the merging of the feminine and masculine principle, and I'm not going overboard into extremes. And that's where the key of this transformation lies. And that's going to be a learning process, I see, for many years to come, for many of the light working group. But they're also telling me that the word light worker has to change because light worker still means it's someone who has to work for the light. Again, that's a will aspect. In order to have validation, to have value, I need to work for the light, or I need to serve the light. Shift into the perspective of light beings. All you have to do is be aligned with your core, to be a being of light, to do what serves you, so that you can be a servant of the whole. Not like a servant, but like you're a servant to life. But you serve life, and life serves you. Before, it was very much a one-sided relationship, and this one-sided relationship always comes from duality. It comes from separation. And now we're moving more into a cohesive unit, a structure that's independently interconnected, which means it is interdependent, and it's building upon itself in a new way. So life is informing itself that life is life. It has an intrinsic value. It doesn't need to prove that it's life. The same way you don't need to prove yourself, I can achieve my goals. A lot of times we're doing this to prove to ourselves that we can. A lot of the times it's because we want to escape reality as it is. We don't like it. Oftentimes, myself did not like where I'm living, because not of what I create, my space is always beautiful, but you know, I come just a little bit of, like, let's say more centimeters out. I expand to what others are already doing and creating. I feel like, oh, ooh, dense energies, ugly stuff, oh gosh, you know what they're doing. And but then again, I don't have to associate with that as being my creation. I was so sensitive to these environments, to being crass and dense and sometimes even plain old ugly. It wasn't this beautiful, refined, angelic frequency being brought on earth. But again, that's why we were here, to love all aspects, all parts of the experience, and have no judgment, so that life through us can reinform itself by not resisting these things that feel either oppressive, distorted, very dense, very, very dense, very cut off from the experience of the whole and source within ourselves. So for me, this initiation is like the final call. It felt like if I don't do this, if I don't master this, I'm never going to be a full master of reality through unity consciousness. Because a lot of mastery, let's face it, was egoic. I'm a master, I can do this, I can achieve this, I can ask these energies to serve me, you know. Recently, my mother was reading the Saint Germain books again. And she said, one aspect did not resonate with me at all, because what it says there is, all you have to do is command the energies and they will serve you. Is that true? Okay, again, and I was so happy for her that she actually got this on herself, by herself, on her own. I'm like, wow, you're growing, you're outgrowing this, because as you know, a lot of books have beautiful points of light and some contribution that's not always illumined. And we have to see the difference. We have to tell the difference to our own discernment and this congruent notion of, again, the triad of the body, soul, mind complex, which has to be unified. And that's how we can read everything from this Christ of consciousness. Christ of consciousness recognizes itself, right? So you'll recognize the aspects that are not coming from it. And you can say, that sounds a little egoic. That sounds like it's so easy. You just show up and like, It sounds like a little Hitler, right? Commanding, right? Why would you even command the energy? The embodiment principle, the principle of unity consciousness, is bring everything, whatever it is, back to you. Because you are at the center of your consciousness, lies this vortex. It is in your core. When you open up the core, yes, sometimes the layers around it will be intense. That's the hardest part for people. They don't want to go to the core because there's layers around it, and these are the patterns, the conditions, and so. But the healing on those levels happens only partially. The only true, lasting, permanent, ascended healing, which is holding, happens when you get to that which we call the core. And for people, it's difficult and challenging to break through and get to that level because there's so much in between. But that's what we need to do. And even the guidance recently in one meditation, they said there's so many layers, but you have to find the strength to move through them. And people whose lives seem so easy and flowing, and is they haven't yet perhaps chosen to go through that. They're still existing in this surface level, but one time, eventually, everyone will have to open the pipe. It's like, woo, you're confronted with so much coming through. And this is now happening with this Venus retrograde. With the things you said, I'm okay, I'm never crying, I'm good, I'm centered. Yeah, on that level you are. But when you open the new door and a new door, and again, it overwhelms you at how much is still there. But this is where the heart-centered non-judgment and compassion has to come from. It's like being willing to see how much is still there. Yeah, okay, neutrally. Well, there's more. You cried tears and they're coming again. And you go like, there's more. Yeah. So you do the process. You neutralize again. Again, love is this neutralizing force. So don't fall for these traps of people telling you can manifest only with your, this self-empowerment. This is the key. Yes, this is the first step. It's not the overall ascension. And we're going to see what that is in a nutshell. What I basically wanted to talk about, let's see if I have all this covered. I wanted to talk about, we're going to move that into part 2. The birthing pains, the integrated healers, to be the light in the dark, the journey of a light worker, and illumination of the inner child. That's going to be all in part 2. So this term, light worker, as I said, shift into that being an illumined light being. You don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. And when you manifest from this unity consciousness, you move within everything you want to see and achieve or experiencing. Let's say experience. It's not about achievement. In your outer world, you have to feel within yourself. It has to be sparked up from your essence. So if you fear it's not going to happen, there's probably a layer. And even when we say volunteer souls, we still inhabit the human bodies. We inherit everything that's in the cellular structure, all the ancestry, all that's in the DNA that's not yet still fully illumined. So we go through the very same things. Like I said, the only thing that's different between us and those who are not coming from this perspective is that, like I said, we're coming from the illumined and into the form to elevate the form, to ascend the physical body experience so it can be a beautiful, joyful experience. Because we love life. Love is the glue. Love is, inherent in itself. Love is life. Life is love. So this means, like, in the past, you have this vision of people ascending from the planet and saying, bye-bye, I'm leaving you. This is a dense reality. It's not how it really is. We're here, the volunteer soul aspect is the aspect that wants to bring that, which is already in itself, to the whole. Like I said, the seedling spreading itself out to a greater field because you recognize yourself as unified consciousness. So when you create from a unified consciousness, heart-centered template, you realize there's other forces of light, templates that others have also created, that you exist within your group, the guides, everything is interconnected. So it's not all about you becoming self-empowered. Your life is not just about this little dot called you, I, me, right? It's you reinforcing yourself, applying yourself in a way that invites a greater experience than just the self, the ego-driven, the will-driven aspect to create. So if you want to know more, there's this Illumined Creation mastery course for those of you who feel, yeah, I'm ready. I want to shift to this template. And you feel calling, go there, check out the information and all the other courses available. But now I want to move to the part 2. There's still lots more to share, and I don't want to get it all in one video because it's going to be super long. And I know people don't like that, so maybe you can watch in 2 parts. So I'll see you there. I'll see you then. Magical.